Hi everybody, it's Meg from Books Off the Beaten Path. Pardon me, I just had a pimento cheese sandwich. I have my water, and we are going to talk book tag. So the book tag that I was not really tagged with, but I really want to do, is the 10 books that made me. Now, I'm going to turn this around a little bit, and because the term made me, sound like I said made be. The term made me, you could go for hours kind of discussing what that means and everything like that, and neither one of us wants to do that. We just want to look at some books, right? So I've got a stack of books to show you, and then a couple of books that I'm going to put up just images of on the screen that I don't have or I can't find. And these books are all books that opened the door to other books and other genres, thereby making my reading personal to me. Like, my reading list is personal to me, and I'm going to use that as the books that made me who I am. Because we all know who I am. I'm a gothic lover. I love the spooky stuff. But I also love great literature. And we're going to get to that. So I'm going to start off. I'm just going to kind of throw these books out there. These are in no particular order. But I will tell you a little snippet of a story that goes with each one. Okay. So the first one we have here is, I was given this book by my father. Sorry, my books are falling apart. And this is the Oxford Book of English Verse. And he gave me this when I was just a young thing. I was probably in, and I'm not going to lie about this, it was probably in elementary school. It was first published in 1900. And you go through chronologically all of the great English poets, and starting from anonymous to there's Shakespeare in there, William Blake, Sir Walter Scott. Yes. So I got this book and I tried reading it, and I really struggled. I was in elementary school. I really struggled, but there were several things in here that I enjoyed, and that, I liked the rhythm to them and the iambic pentameter and everything like that. And so that opened a world of poetry for me. But really, what blew it apart for me is this one right here, Picnic Lightning. Billy Collins is my all-time favorite poet. Next to Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver and Billy Collins are like right there together. And they are just wonderful. And they showed me that poetry can be about mundane things, like about the oranges sitting on the plate in the middle of the table, or somebody eating a bowl of cereal. And this book that was gifted to me, that I've now gifted to my son and hope that he will give to his son at some point, was kind of a gateway. It was the gateway to me for poetry. And yes, I got it in elementary school, and I don't know why he gave it to me at that particular time, but he did. And it opened up a whole new world for me, which was poetry, which is something I love deeply. Okay, next book up is The Wind in the Willows. Now, I didn't know anything about The Wind and Willows when I got this as a teenager. I just got it because I thought the illustrations were pretty. And that's one of the things that made me, let me show you an illustration here. That's one of the things that made me, in quotes, a lover of beautiful books. Because I loved the story of The Wind in the Willows. I don't know if you guys have ever read it. It's not really plot driven. It's just kind of a series of vignettes about these animals and the different things that they do. Excuse me, I need a sip of water. Hold on just a sec. But I am a sucker for a beautiful book and beautiful illustrations. And Wind in the Willows, that was the first book I bought because of illustrations. And I have since bought several more because of illustrations. So that's one there. The next one this is the same, I think this is Everyman Library. Yeah, it's Everyman Library. This one is A Christmas Carol. And it's still to this day my all-time favorite Dickens. See, I have my name in there and everything. So when I pass and they sell it at the garage sale for 25 cents, someone will be able to talk about having my book on their channel years from now. But that, for me, opened up a love of Dickens, which thereby opened up a love of anything Victorian. I got into Victorian literature big time. And I got into the history of Victorian England. I have a wonderful book on my shelf called The Victorian Woman. I just was so captivated by the period that Dickens was describing in A Christmas Carol that it opened up doors for me to look into more history books, into different Victorian writers, which I had never done before. And so, yeah, Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And there goes Moose, of course, right in the middle of this. All right, so what's next? Okay. Next we have Shirley Jackson, The Haunting of Hill House. This was the first kind of scary literature book that I'd ever read. I'm going to pause a second. Okay, I'm back. I think the dog has calmed down. So let's go back to The Haunting of Hill House. I loved Goosebumps. You know, do you remember Goosebumps? I don't know if you do or not. But anyway, they were a series of books that were scary, and they were intentionally scary, and they were made for kids and everything like that. And once again, my father, who was an English teacher and a beloved man, he gave me The Haunting of Hill House. He didn't give me this copy. This copy I bought later for one of my sons, and the same one that I'm going to give. I have one who's a reader and one who's not. But anyway, I gave this to Joe. This book, The Haunting of Hill House, opened up for me the fact that ghost stories and scary stories didn't have to be campy. They could be literary, and they could be effective without having a lot of jump scares and a lot of, things like that. Shirley Jackson's writing, I think, is fantastic. I love it. And this book for me really made it, what's the word I want to use? I don't know. Really elevated. It really elevated my love of all things spooky, because here was this woman who is a brilliant writer and she loves spooky things too. Yay! Okay, now we're going to go with The Hobbit. Now, The Hobbit is going to be the opposite of some of these other books. The Hobbit is the only fantasy I have ever read and enjoyed. And God knows I've tried. I have tried so many times to read The Lord of the Rings, any other fantasy novel. I can't even think of the big ones now because I just can't get through them. I just don't like them. I can't get through them. So The Hobbit taught me that you can have a piece of literature that means a lot to you, but you don't have to go down that rabbit hole. Like, it's the only fantasy I think I will ever successfully read. It's the only one I ever really enjoyed. And it taught me that there are other worlds of literature out there, but that they're not all for me. You know? You know what I'm saying? I think you know what I'm saying. All right. Now, literature. Let's talk a little bit about literature. I went through an Anthony Trollope phase, with this being my favorite Trollope book ever written, The Small House at Allington. And this was written, I also have a beautiful copy of it, but I couldn't reach it in my book shelf. I couldn't get it down here. This was published in 1864, and it's about a girl named Lillian, I think they call her, but they call her Lily. And Lily falls in love with this guy who's kind of cheesy, and you know it's not going to end well, and it doesn't. And Lily has to keep carrying on as if nothing has happened to her, as if her heart has not been broken. And I was so moved by The Small House at Allington. That was my first time that I ever really got into a character so much that it hurt me reading what they were thinking on the page. And that opened up for me not only Place's character, because the house plays, a role in it too. It's kind of her sanctuary. It becomes sort of her den after the horrible things happen and everything like that. But oh my God, the writing in here and the story in here, The Small House at Allington, again, that Victorian literature that Charles Dickens opened up for me, really, really opened it wide. And I love all things Victorian. Okay, now, moving on. My all-time favorite book is Jane Eyre, because I want to be Jane. Yes, it's true. I want to be a governess. I mean, I'm a mom, so I guess I've already achieved that. But I want to be in a creepy house out on the moors. I want to be investigating strange noises at night and being brave about doing it. And the thing I love about Jane Eyre, the thing I love the most about Jane Eyre, is how Jane stays true to her character. She has her moral center, and she knows exactly which way north, south, east, and west are. And I love that book. I have several copies of it. I've read it several times. It is a part of me. You have those books that just become a part of you. It is a part of me. Jane Eyre. Okay, now just some honorable mentions here, and then I will close it. Okay, this was the very first Mary Roberts Reinhardt that I ever read, was The Bat. And it was this edition. I got it for $2.98 at a used bookstore, and I just fell in love. I fell in love with Mary Roberts Reinhardt, and you guys know how much I love her, how I read everything that I can find on her, and I just love her. And the reason that this changed my life, and it did change my life, is because I'd read Agatha Christie. Of course, everybody's read Agatha Christie. Well, not everybody, but, I would assume a lot of people out there watching this video have read Agatha Christie. But Agatha always withholds a clue. Mary never withholds a clue. Everything is there for you to figure it out. And I just was amazed by that. I was amazed by the adventure she takes me on, and I just love Mary Roberts Reinhardt. Again, another person that I would love to have at that fantasy dinner. When you go to heaven, you get to have dinner with so many people. Was it Dick Cavett? That dates me. That was a Dick Cavett question, I think. Who would you have dinner with? And Mary Roberts Reinhardt would definitely be one, along with William Shakespeare, I think, and Charles Dickens, and Jane Austen. Yeah. And Timothy Chalamet. But that would mean that he would be dead. But I would not want that for him. I think I've gotten a little off track. Okay, last two honorable mentions. Barbara Michaels and John Dickinson Carr. Those two authors got me into book collecting, used book collecting. And because so many of them are out of print now, Barbara Michaels, maybe not so much as John Dickinson Carr, but John Dickinson Carr is out of print now. And when I find a John Dickinson Carr in a used bookstore, I usually fall on it like a live grenade. They got me into book collecting and the joy of book collecting and cataloging the books that I have. And yeah, it's become a big hobby of mine, and that's become part of Meg. Meg is a book collector. So Meg is a lot of things. Meg is a Victorian lover. Meg is a spooky lover. Meg is a lover of poetry. Meg is a book collector. Meg is Jane Eyre wannabe, a Jane Eyre wannabe. These are all the things that compose my literary life, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the books I've read, and I'm proud of the ones that I brought forth to you today. So hopefully you guys send me comments. You know how I love the comments. Give me some comments on what I have presented, and give me some comments on anything you agree with or disagree with. Remember, The Hobbit didn't go anywhere after that. So I guess that's all I have to say. I hope that you're enjoying my adventures on YouTube. I certainly am. So give me a like, hit subscribe, and I will check you later.